Thank you guys for joining us here at Psycho Turtle Collectibles and Pokemon Labs Mid-Season Showdown! Woo! We are doing a really interesting match in a few moments. We have Hector and Josh going to go head-to-head. One of them going to go 4-2, still in this tournament. Have a chance at top 8. It is a huge mid-season today. The other going to go 3-3, so a lot on the line for this. Also, huge thanks to everyone who's been donating for our Child's Play fundraiser today. We appreciate everything that you guys have been donating to us, and we're gonna get right into it as everyone is ready to go. So you're gonna see Hector on the left with this Golden Go, Amoonguss, Okidogi, Incineroar, Latios, and Ogerpon Wellspring. Latios, sorry, and Ogerpon Wellspring, and Joshua. We were talking Latios literally moments before here, and Joshua on the right with that Gouging Fire, Chen Pao, King Gambit, Ogerpon Wellspring, Amoonguss, and Dragonite.
Yeah, we've seen this team, I think, before out of someone else earlier in the earlier rounds. I believe they had a Ninetales over a King Gambit, and Amoonguss wasn't there present previously, and it basically accomplishes the same. Oh yeah, it was Victor's team. It was Victor's, and it accomplishes nearly the same thing with all these Pokemon. It's just like he had a Ninetales over to Amoonguss for Aurora support and the Chen-Pao from earlier, but like,
which is pretty solid, honestly, especially when you look at what's on the opposing team. There's 3 Pokemon that are immune to Spore, and so just already. It's a night. Amoonguss is kind of falling off again. It had a nice spike at the start of the format, but because we're seeing a lot of like Golden Go's coming back, you've seen a lot of Ogerpon, and so I think Amoonguss is kind of interchangeable with whatever support you want to pick. But we're ready to go. This is a very interesting team. Okidogi is one that I want to point out. It's been seeing a lot of usage with Assault Vest. Toxic Chain got an upper hand, Snarl, so it's very good support, especially with this Golden Go. While Joshua going to lead King Gambit and Gouging Fire.
Yeah, Josh going ahead and lead out Gouging Fire, King Gambit with the speed booster intact for that photosynthesis, for the potential Howl on that King Gambit for the potential of, you know, big damage output, especially given that black classes that it's carrying. Unfortunately, no Terra Dark. It's Terra Dragon for defensive reasons, but it doesn't look that bad right now as Hector's considering Terra Dragon on this Golden Go.
You know what's interesting to me, though, is this Gambit is very threatened by a Drain Punch by Okidogi, and it probably will outspeed it. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see the King Gambit Terra Dragon on Josh's side as well, or just entirely switch out into something. Personally, I think Ogerpon Wellspring. Yeah, there's a switch. Yeah, Ogerpon Wellspring's pretty good into this one. Dragonite's pretty good into this one. Just anything. Yeah, Ogerpon. Because I'm assuming a Howl or Breaking Swipe isn't coming, and Ogerpon also has that Follow Me redirection and resistance on Make It Rain, which is huge.
Yeah, if we see Golden Go Protect here, scouting out that Gouging Fire for anything it tries to go for, it's going to be at Breaking Swipe, and it will at least lower the attack of that Okidogi and toss it to turn on the other side, which I don't know why they keep turning to the other side and just face forward. Yes, that's something that we're not going to be talking about as of like in depth, but Drain Punch, yeah, you can see how much little damage it did after that Breaking Swipe attack drop.
You know, Okidogi is interesting because it's 2 stab typings.
Oh, it gets a Toxic Chain off.
There you go. That's why it's interesting. Its 2 stab typings are really, really nice. You have Fighting, which is covering a lot, and now Gunk Shot threatens the Ogerpon. The Okidogi probably going to take a hit, but even at a -1, Gunk Shot should still do solid. There's also potential. I think right now, Golden Go's in a relatively decent place to Terra Dragon or you could switch it out. Yeah, it's an interesting one because it then becomes mind games if you did go for the Terra Dragon. Is it going to go for a Heat Crash on the Gouging Fire? Is it going to Breaking Swipe? But Incineroar is actually a really nice choice because that Intimidate is going to connect to both of these, and now this it's gonna cripple both of the opposing Pokemon.
Well, we are gonna see the Howl come out from that Gouging Fire, going for a big attack boost with that Ogerpon. You know,
ignore the Intimidate entirely.
Yeah, we're gonna ignore it entirely. Here goes the Ivy Cudgel into this Incineroar. Big damage, not enough to knock out, unfortunately. We'll park that Citrus Berry. That Incineroar came straight from the Alola region and into the Paldea with a big vengeance, but unfortunately just took so much damage from that Ivy Cudgel. Gunk Shot is able to connect onto that Ogerpon, cannot get it out.
That was a really nice knockout. The very good call on Joshua's side, predicting that switch in from the Incineroar. It is now crippled quite a bit. It does not want to stay in. I think it wants to recycle that Intimidate. It's interesting because there's really not much. It's not a bad position for this King Gambit. Chen-Pao's actually, you know what? Chen-Pao's better because you do have that Sacred Sword to threaten the Incineroar, and then at that point, or Protect and then Howl and then target the Okidogi with a Ice Spinner. And then you can go for a Breaking Swipe. So maybe I think the ideal play right now for Chen-Pao is to Protect and go for a Howl. I think, but then you still have to worry about Incineroar's Parting Shot, which is scary, especially with Golden Go coming in the back and Amoonguss for support, which is really good into these two because yeah, it may be weak to fire, but it's Amoonguss is Terrafire, and so it can resist the 2 stabs on Joshua's side and then return with a Spore. So I think ideally you want to go for the Parting Shot.
Yeah, like Josh is in a pretty good spot in terms of like that Gouging Fire doing whatever it wants. I mean, if you're looking at Hector's side, you know, you gotta be worried about that Gem Pal slot, because even if you do like protect here, you still gotta be threatened by a Drain Punch, and then if you try to switch it out, that's King Gambit winning back, and it's not going to be good against it. We're going to see to protect, but I envision it going for a Terra Ghost soon. Yeah,
Terra Ghost probably on the next turn. There's the Howl. Okay. Becomes a very interesting game now, because it is all eyes are on Hector's Amoonguss. Does it tear to fire? Does it not tear to fire?
Gunk shot to Gouging Fire. This is not doing a whole lot of damage here. Does not trigger. There's no trigger. There's no toxic chain trigger. There's no poison.
Okay. Again, all eyes on that Amoonguss. The Howl now makes it to where both Pokemon on Joshua's side are +1. Amoonguss has Recovery Berry with Agua Berry. Terrifier.
There might be a point where I had to go Terrifier. Yeah, go Terrifier here to make sure you go Rage Powder, and to make sure that Ice Spinner does not knock you out.
Yeah, this Ice Spinner, I think you gotta. It's mind games. Do you go for the same Ice Spinner if you're Joshua? I think I do. Sacred Sword plus Breaking Swipe. I don't think it's enough to KO, but it's enough to cripple the Amoonguss to where you can now focus on the Okidogi with the Chien-Pao. And if you do Terra to Ghost, which
Fire,
there's no Terra to Ghost.
Okay, that's a lot of betting right here for Josh. You know, maybe he's trying to make sure that Okidogi gets knocked out, but if this is Rage Powder, there's no Rage Powder. It's another Breaking Swipe.
A lot.
Critical hit on the Okidogi.
Ice Spinner on Okidogi, isn't it? It's going to be Ice Spinner on Okidogi, I bet. That's my guess.
If it is, then Ice Spinner is Okidogi. There you go. There you go. It's going to go down. But now, okay, so you get a Spore off at the very least, but depending on who you Spore, this could be good or bad.
I think the Spore connected with the burn as the Gouging Fire, if I'm not mistaken.
It is.
And honestly, not bad. Okay, here's the thing. I think the Gouging Fire is definitely more threatening one. This is the time to bring in Golden Go and set up it, because you are essentially you essentially get a free Nasty Plot. Okay.
Incineroar comes in here.
I was gonna say you get a free Nasty Plot because you either spore the Chien-Pao or enforce, and then they're spored. They can't really. You could follow me and set up a Nasty Plot, and then yeah. But I think Incineroar's not terrible at all. I'm still iffy on it, to be honest, because you could go for that Terra Ghost on Chien-Pao and then Sacred Sword it, and then yeah, maybe both of yours are spored, but at the same time you have King Gambit in the back and you burned your Terra, so Sucker Punch knocks it out. So it's like one of those positions where I think it's an iffy one. Well, you could also just go Sacred Sword onto the Amoonguss and try to get rid of it.
It's not. I don't think it's gonna be knocking out right now.
I don't think so. Even out of my +1, I think right now you
gotta burn this first turn. Yeah. I think you gotta burn this first turn of Gouging Fire Sleepy for Josh. But it's just like, what do you do with the Chien-Pao? Because Fake Out's a threat, meaning you probably need to Terra Ghost to make sure. Yeah, you gotta go Terra Ghost here to avoid the Fake Out, and it's up to Hector if they read the Fake Out or not.
That was the right Terra though. If you get rid of especially if you get rid of this Incineroar, because then it's just. You have King Gambit in the back. It's not going to be threatened by anything Golden Go is going to do. It's not going to be threatened by anything Amoonguss is going to do.
Let's see what happens to Hector here. No Fake Out came out, so it's good. There's going to be a Rage Powder here, so...
Okay, you know what? I feel like if you're Joshua, that's fine. I'm going to go Sacred Sword anyways.
Okay, there is the first turn of sleep for Gouging Fire. He has to take that at the very least. It is a neutral Sacred Sword into this...
2-hit.
Amoonguss is not enough for the knock out. He needs the Terra, fortunately, but even with the critical hit, you're not going to knock off Focus Sash in time.
Still not bad position for Josh. I think right now you just click Breaking Swipe and then you Sacred Sword onto the Incineroar slot. Incineroar,
I mean, that's if the Gouging Fire wakes up right now.
But still, it doesn't matter. The Amoonguss has to redirect it. And as long as you can get down to, if you could just get it down to Golden Go, then your King Gambit's in position, just win. So I think right now the best bet is, even if the Amoonguss gets rid of the Chien-Pao, then you can go to King Gambit, get rid of the Amoonguss. The Golden Go goes to +2, but it doesn't matter. You've burned your Terra if you're Hector, and you could just keep Sucker Punching it until Gouging Fire wakes up. I think Joshua's in a brilliant position right now, and I think it's going to come down to the Sacred.
Another sleep turn for Gouging Fire.
Doesn't matter. If you get rid of the Incineroar, I think you can pick it up, no matter what happens.
The Sacred Sword comes out into this Incineroar. Yep. It is going to be another tech to get the knockout onto this Incineroar. I think that's another Spore coming in here for Hector. And if this is a Chien-Pao, Pollen Puff is going to knock out the Chien-Pao, meaning Josh is down to Gouging Fire and King Gambit, and Hector only has Goldango and Amoonguss.
In my opinion, I think the Spore actually was the better option, because it would allow you to at least hit a bit better with... get a free Nasty Plot up. With this King Gambit coming in, this is worst case scenario for Hector. This thing resists every move, and yeah, not Pollen Puff, but it's from Amoonguss, so it's not going to have any special attack investment, or at least not a lot. And so this King Gambit is free to just go for a attack right away onto the Amoonguss. I would go for Amoonguss personally, because I think it's more threatening.
Wait, hold on. What if he just goes protect Spore? Because that's probably the best thing he could do, just to buy himself some time to get back into this game. Because
yeah, which is why your King Gambit hits the Amoonguss. The question then becomes, what's the speed on King Gambit? If it's min speed, Amoonguss will go first, most likely. If it's not min speed,
I would imagine it's not min speed.
I would imagine it's not.
because there's a point where King Gambit can just go for that cast out cleave onto that golden angle, but if it goes protect spore with that Amoonguss and into the King Gambit, that's probably going to be bad news bears. Gouging Fire does wake up.
Doesn't even matter.
And it's going to heat crash into this golden angle.
Okay.
How heavy is the difference? It's not enough for a knockout. How these heat crashes just not been enough to weigh the dough, and that's a nasty pop for the golden angle here. But if this is cast out cleave into the golden angle, no to the Amoonguss, it's going to knock it out, and now this game pretty much essentially over.
I mean, just even if it didn't wake up, the kowtow into the Amoonguss was the play. I mean, you got rid of it, and then you could sucker punch. So Joshua just, as soon as the last turn happened, and you saw that Chien-Pao live, and it didn't even matter at that point. You're free to just Sacred Sword. It's like, okay, good. Amoonguss goes down if it follows me. If not, Instant Roar goes down, and then after that, you're free to just kowtow until you win.
Another heat crash will do it.
Yeah, Joshua positioned himself really, really well here. Really well.
And now you're Hector heading into this game too. I mean, Okidogi did put in some work, but I believe he left Gouging Fire doing a little too much too quickly.
You know, one thing that I think is super underrated in this format is just Gouging Fire in general. It's bulky. It is super bulky, and its Terra to usually Fairy, sometimes Grass, is just good. Like, it scares so much, especially Steel types are not going to be going in against it no matter what. So that Terra to Fairy is really useful. Okidogi, I think you really got to save it and maybe force a Terra. But the issue that I have with Hector's team is there's nothing on Hector's team that can force a Terra for the Okidogi to go for that gunk shot, and there's nothing scary against the Fire Dragon combo. I mean, mainly because this Latias, it has Mistball and has Icy Wind. I mean, Icy Wind maybe, but there's really nothing here that Hector can do to just put a full stop to Gouging Fire, and I think Incineroar and Intimidate cycling is going to be your best bet. And I think if you partner that with, I don't even know what you partner it with.
Yeah, because like dealing with Gouging Fire is definitely a problem. And I believe Okidogi is unfortunately your best chance at it because not only does Gunshot do, it didn't do a whole lot of damage, obviously because of those breaking spikes, but like if you get the toxic chain or the poison, it's definitely a bigger thing.
That is good. Actually, I like the lead here on Hector's side. Going in for the Amoonguss plus Okidogi right away, I like that best. And then like you said, like we were saying, the Intimidate cycling is going to be another really good option, especially when you really look at Joshua's team. It's all physical attack, actually. And so,
all of them except for the Amoonguss.
Which is not going to be doing much.
I mean, it knocked out a Chien-Pao.
It's true. It's not bad. I mean, your pollen puffs are good. Oh, it does actually have Grass Knot, which is going to be good for some matchups, but not anything too much here.
Oh, okay. I was wondering which Amoonguss had Grass Knot.
Yeah. Other than that, for the most part, like, you're physical attackers, and it is pretty susceptible to Intimidate between Amoonguss.
Well, let's see what Josh brings out for this game 2 here. It's going to be Gouging Fire Dragonite incoming. Hector going to bring out Okidogi Amoonguss for this round 6, game number 2 here. Hector Contrereas and Josh Denk. We're going to see that booster energy speed again, and this is an interesting turn because this Dragonite can just threaten knockouts on both Pokemon with that Aerial Ace with Howl Boost.
Yep, I like Howl. I think that's the right play. Question is, what do you do? I think personally you go for Terra Fire. I would probably switch the Okidogi out and go for Terra Fire Spore. But the question is, which one do you Spore? I think Dragonite you Spore. And then you can redirect while Gouging Fire's up, and then go into Golden Go, and then just keep boosting and boosting and boosting.
Okidogi's out.
That's it. Golden Go. I mean, Incineroar's not a bad choice anyway, but Golden Go I think is
coming in. Here is the Incineroar.
Okay, that's fine. It's totally fine.
It's an Intimidate at least at this Gouging Fire, which this isn't going to be doing a whole lot of damage unless it's going for that Heat Crash. Unfortunately, Inner Focus is going to bypass that entirely. Do we see a Terrestrialization anywhere? We see one from Hector.
Okay, if you Spore the Dragonite, you're in good shape. The issue though, and I still feel like this is, there's not much on Hector's side that can take out dragons. You Icy Wind on Latias, but you don't bring in Latias really to this matchup. Your best bet is to set up Golden Go, and the hard part is that's really difficult to do, and especially with a Howl boosted Dragonite, which you can Parting Shot it. That's your best bet, and I wouldn't be surprised. But then at that same time, if Gouging Fire is free to go for another Howl.
Aerial Ace into this Incineroar, not doing half damage just yet, but now the Amoonguss spores the Dragonite. Now it's going to be going out to a Snap while flying in the air. That's likely going to be Gouging Fire's fate next.
Yeah, I think you go for in my opinion, you Parting Shot on the Gouging Fire right now if you're Hector, and you go for a Spore onto it, switch into Golden Go, and then just keep redirecting until you can go for a Shadow Ball onto it. I think that's your only way to get rid of it. You can't force a Terra. You can't... You can lower its stats, but keep raising it with Howl. We see Ogerpon, there's not Golden Go. Oh, ugh,
I mean, I guess in his case, the King Yemet and Gouging Fire scared it out. Gouging Fire switches for Josh.
Yeah, but there's not anything to... I mean,
Ogerpon comes in.
The downside is this Incineroar, this Amoonguss, and this Ogerpon cannot hit Dragonite for more than a neutral knockoff. Like, you have to rely on Okidogi's gunk shots to get rid of most everything on this team. That's my issue right now with Hector's team choices. But the good news is there's Ogerpon, which is going to go down to a gunk shot, and so you kind of have to. And the parting shot's really nice because it allows you to recycle those Amoonguss regenerators. So you really just want to keep your Okidogi alive because it is the key to winning this match, I think. And then afterwards, if you can get rid of the Gouging Fire and the Dragonite, the rest of your team can handle whatever the last Pokemon is on Joshua's side.
Yeah, now we're going to see Amoonguss come back in here. I mean, yes, you get it back in.
It's full health too.
It is full health. Unfortunately, it's just an Assault Vest at Okidogi, which is unfortunately not going to be doing a whole lot because of these physical attackers. Dragonite does have the potential to wake up with that Aerial Ace. Then there's Ogerpon that can potentially get a critical hit on this Amoonguss because Ivy Cudgel, has a critical hit ratio. Instead, we're going to see a Spiky Shield.
Smart. Waste those sleep turns. Yeah, that's the... Amoonguss is in a tough spot with that Terrifier because you brought out the Water type now for Joshua, so it's like... What do you do then? It's just...
Dragonite wakes up!
Yeah, area +1.
Stomping Tantrum into the Amoonguss.
Okay, Stomping's fine. Stomping's fine.
So, Okidogi does have a free turn to do something, but if this is Gunk Shot to Ogerpon, which it is, it's doing nothing.
Okay, you know what? Not terrible. Not terrible. You're free. You can free switch in now to Ogerpon, knowing that this Dragonite... It is Assault Vest. So the question now becomes, what are you going to do? Are you going to go for the Aerial Ace? Or are you going to go for the Stomping Tantrum again?
Or there's also a potential where it could go Upper Hand on the Extreme Speed, funny enough.
I don't think we're going to see Terra Normal. Yeah, I don't think we're going to see Terra Normal. If anything.
Yeah, we're not going to see Terra Normal for obviously for the Upper Hand, but like it's still an option to go Upper Hand.
Stop set. Yeah. And then you can position yourself into a better spot there. But I think the Gunk Shot on the right side. Yeah, I think the Gunk Shot onto the...
Okay, Amoonguss doesn't want to stay... Okay, Amoonguss doesn't want to stay around against the Stopping Tantrum. Ogerpon going to come in here.
Now. But I think it's also... It's a tough one because the obvious play is now to Aerial Ace Okidogi.
And here's a Sheriff from Josh. If this is Ogerpon, this looks pretty good for the resistance, and it will just take away that grass weakness.
That's what you needed. But you can get the poison, so that could really help.
Yeah, you really had two ways to get poison, off Gunk Shot itself and off Toxic Chain.
Yeah.
There's the special defense move off the body aspect as the mass transparently for the Ogerpon of Josh. Then Ivy Cudgel goes into a water absorb.
Here comes an Aerial Ace though.
Is it Aerial Ace?
Oh, Stomping.
Stomping. So he wanted to get rid of that Amoonguss slot quickly.
Yeah.
And I don't fault him for it. Here's Drain Punch into this Ogerpon. He's looking for a Toxic Chain activation here. Does he get it? No, he does not.
No. The good news is that the Ogerpon is no longer... You can like... It's not great news, but I think you got a Spiky Shield and then Gunk Shot on Ogerpon. I think it's in range. I think Dragonite's going to go for an Aerial Ace more likely than not, and so you could switch an Incineroar, but I don't know. I feel like if you just Spiky Shield the Dragonite, it's perfect bait for the Dragonite to just go into the Ogerpon slot while you Gunk Shot. Of course, there is that Okidogi being threatening more than anything. You can Gunk Shot the Dragonite as well and just kind of stall that out and then follow me. But I don't know. I feel like it's just such a tough position for Hector when you don't have a counter for dragons.
Ogerpon's gone, so well, we know the back Pokemon is at least a Gouging Fire, which is brought out.
Could get that Toxic Chain. I mean, it's yeah.
Ogerpon's gone too. Okay. So the threat of Aerial Ace is still there. I'm just gonna say that much. Amoonguss comes back in here at full HP.
Not bad.
If it's a Stopping Tangent, this is not a bad read here. We just see Aerial Ace into that slot. That's still just almost half. Gunk Shot connects into this Dragonite. How much damage will this do? At least half. And we don't get any activations of a Gunk Shot poison or a Toxic Chain.
That's what you needed, was the poison. The good news is
it's doing half at least, and I don't. I mean, what am I thinking?
If you're Hector, you pick which one do you sacrifice. The best case scenario right now is that Aerial Ace connects with the Amoonguss, but I don't think it's going to. I think it's going to go to the Okidogi.
Breaking Swipe is the choice, so even if a second Gunk Shot were to connect, you would still need a Toxic Chain or a poison from it if it were to connect. That's even if it gets a chance to hit it at all, because just Dragonite's been faster to this Okidogi. Aerial Ace into this Okidogi, and it is not enough!
Oh my goodness!
Gunk Shot does connect.
Poison.
Okay, there we go. Gets a connection, and Toxic Chain activates.
There you go. Best case scenario for Hector right there.
And now I think there's a... now if you're the Okidogi for Hector, do you want to gamble on an upper hand on an extreme speed, for last-ditch damage upper? Because that's definitely an option Josh can do, even though it wouldn't be optimal. It's like...
I actually like that idea. I'm not going to lie, because then you could spore the Gouging Fire essentially guaranteed.
Oh yeah, because like if you go upper hand into the Dragonite to check for extreme speed, that would be pretty.
But no, and you know what? No, because chances are the Dragonite's gonna go for a Stomping Tantrum on the Amoonguss. I don't know what the play is. You know what? I would probably go for maybe an upper hand and then a. No, I don't know, because you're faster.
Yeah, he tries to check for extreme speed, doesn't find it, unfortunately. Dragonite just went for a normal attack. Breaking Swipe goes into both Pokemon. Knocks out Okidogi.
Stomping Tantrum incoming.
That probably is going to be the case. Okidogi goes down, but it probably is going to be a 2-on-1 trade. Aerial Ace instead, but it is just enough to knock it out anyway.
Yeah. Okay, well,
you're down to...
It was worth a shot. I mean, in theory, when you're low health with Dragonite, yeah, you want to go for extreme speed. But if you're Josh, you noticed your Dragonite is faster than both Pokemon on Hector's side, and so there was no risk going for a Stomping Tantrum. I think a switch out. I would have switched out the Amoonguss probably to Ogerpon.
Well, we have Incineroar Ogerpon in the back, but we have a King Gambit. Uh-oh, that's going to be a Defiant boost.
Okay. Let's keep something in mind, too. There is the good news. Flare Blitz can activate. The bad news, you could get unlimited breaking swipes if you're Joshua right now and just have fun with that. There is a good chance that this Ogerpon is the fastest Pokemon on the field, but regardless, there's not, I mean, you can follow me and then Flare Blitz, but there's not much you can do to that Gouging Fire. You kind of have to double target it. And I think ideally right now, the bet is to fake out the King Gambit and Gouging Fire, just because you don't, and Ivy Cudgel Gouging Fire, because you don't have any way else to hit it. And yeah, Gouging Fire is just such a good type. Fire and Dragon is
I feel like the only other Fire Dragon we ever had in this game is Reshiram.
Yeah, Reshiram had a ginormous niche in, like, it wasn't a super common one.
Fake out into a Protect of the King Gambit.
That's fine. I mean, it was the obvious play to do that anyways.
Okay, yeah. Well, here goes Ogerpon going for the Ivy Cudgel into this Gouging Fire. How much damage? Not half.
That's a lot more than I thought it would be. I'm not gonna lie.
It's gonna do less now because of that Breaking Swipe. But
there is the one way Hector can win this, and it is reliant on a crit on Ivy Cudgel. You have a 1 in 8 shot. You have to go for the Ivy Cudgel onto the Gouging Fire, and then Flare Blitz onto.
Is it 1 in 8? Is it 1 in 8? I thought Ivy Cudgel with boosted critical hit ratios.
It is, I believe, 1 in 8 normal. It's 1 in 24 normally, and then the Ivy Cudgel boosted crit makes it 1 in 8.
Okay, and then we see another one come out.
I'm surprised we didn't see Sucker Punch onto that slot, actually.
And does not get a critical hit, unfortunately.
Okay.
Another Breaking Swipe comes out. More attack drops coming in for both of these Pokemon.
That was, you know what, actually, I'm a little surprised we didn't see Sucker Punch go onto the Ogerpon slot. I mean, it's kind of safe because you could go, if there's...
Knock off. Then that's going to take away the Black Glasses at the very least.
Really? Okay, well, I thought we were going to see a Flare Blitz.
Catsuck Weave into Incineroar, so just will weaken damage up, but this is settled in the next one. I think this game's over.
I think it's gonna go to, yeah, you just Sucker Punch 1 of 2.
And yeah, Sucker Punch goes into the Ogerpon. That's enough for the knockout.
That's what I thought we were gonna see on the last turn. That's why the Ivy Cudgel was a risk. If you did crit the Ivy Cudgel and then Flare Blitz onto the Incineroar, it would have been a full power Flare Blitz. I think it would have been close, but
Breaking Swipe, does it finish off the Incineroar? No, it does not. Not quite yet. Incineroar does have another attack to go for. Flare Blitz. I think this is at -2 now. Yeah.
Oh, the King Gambit would have probably lived then, even after a Flare Blitz, so wasn't bad going for the knockoff damage.
And then that one goes into recoil, and that's Josh Denk winning round
Joshua Denk. Oh my goodness. Joshua has just been kind of dominant. I mean, we've seen Joshua do very well in the regionals recently, and this is exactly why. That Gouging Fire is putting in the work. I think it's actually one of the most underrated Pokemon in this format. I've been seeing a bunch. It's so versatile. You've got Howl, you got Breaking Swipe, you've got Snarl. You could raise your attack, lower the opponent's attack, and lower the opponent's special attack, all with the same Pokemon, not to mention the burn chance from Burning Bulwark. So, like, it's the ultimate support mon, and I think we also kind of saw why it's, like I said, kind of taking the crown from Amoonguss as it being the ultimate support mon by lowering those stats, and threatening Amoonguss itself. I mean, it's a really good Pokemon, and just Hector didn't really have any answers to the double dragon combo of Dragonite and Gouging Fire, besides Okidogi, which you kind of have to wait and hope that you don't go down to an aerial ace. So really well played. It both logically had really good calls, Hector and Joshua, and we will see Joshua potentially in the top cut later today. But thank you guys once again for joining us. Make sure you guys support, there it is. Make sure you guys support Child's Play, donate. You can donate in the chat, you can scan the QR code. Just whatever you do, your support is super, super appreciated. And we will see you guys momentarily for our top 8. We still have plenty of rounds left, so get some water, get a snack, whatever it is. And let's have some fun in the top 8 very soon.